Dan Bongino is a patriot. Dan Bongino, go to the clip of what he gave up real quick before we read this statement. Let's listen to what he gave up. Let's remind you for a moment.
I mean, I gave up everything for this. I mean, you know, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there he gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. You know, I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment, but I stare at these four walls all day in DC. You know, by myself, divorced from my wife. Not divorced, but I mean separated.
Careful, Dan.
And it's hard. I mean, you know, we love each other, and it's hard to be apart.
So he put out this statement the other day. This is his first real statement. Here we go. I thought the first words were interesting. During my tenure here, I thought that was interesting. During my tenure here as Deputy Director of the FBI, I have repeatedly relayed to you that things are happening that might not be immediately visible, but they are happening. The director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and public weaponization. Got to scroll it down for me, Todd. Public weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations. It is a priority for us. But what I have learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. We cannot run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. We're going to come back to that, but I want to read the whole statement really quick. We are going to conduct these righteous and proper investigations by the book and in accordance with the law. We are going to get the answers we all deserve. As with any investigation, I cannot predict where it will land. But I can promise you an honest and dignified effort at truth, not quote my truth or quote your truth, but the truth. God bless America and all those who defend her respectfully, Dan. All right, I want to go back up to that part. Okay. What I've learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. So he's talking about everything. He's talking about Epstein. He's talking about the Butler, Pennsylvania stuff. He's talking about all the Comey debacles. He's talking about all that stuff. Has shocked me down to my core. We cannot run a republic like this. That's the biggest part to me. Mm-hmm. Not that I'll never be the same after learning. Look, I'm telling you guys right now, I'm not the same. My short stint full-time at the Pentagon, I saw, heard, witnessed things that, if you've noticed a whole new level of I don't care, it's because of the things that I've saw in that regard. And I was just there as a consultant, and I was just there to help the digital and the press team side. I can't imagine what Dan Bongino is saying. Okay? The I'll never be the same after what I've learned. That's not the big part. Highlight the actual big part. We cannot run a republic like this. That's the line. Mm-hmm. Out of this whole thing, ladies and gentlemen, that's the part that you need to be most concerned about. For Dan Bongino to say something like this. We cannot run a republic like this. In other words, if we don't do something drastic, quick, and to the point immediately, America is in serious trouble. And this is what I keep trying to tell you guys, that the war is not over. Let's go to James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe had something to say. Here we go. James O'Keefe says, we have a right to know what it is that, quote, shocks Dan Bongino to his core. Okay, well, there's a hit or miss or that. Do we have a right to know the nuclear codes? Do we have a right to know intelligence briefings? Do we have a right?
Depends on what it is.
Do we have a right to know everything? That's a big question. A right versus an opportunity. Well, you can't give everyone in America certain information because they don't have security clearances. They can't pass background checks. They beat their wives. They're involved in drugs, all this other kind of stuff. So that can't be across the board. But either way, many people probably can't handle that truth. But at this point, more harm would come from not having it. Now, I do agree with that. Now, we are at a point to where it can't just be, we can't tell you nothing. No, I agree with that 100%. I am going out on a limb here. I think there's going to come a point. I think Dan will resign eventually. I think because here's what's going to happen. Go back to the picture of Dan. I want Dan. If you would that comment, yes or no. I'm not saying it's going to be today. I'm not saying it's going to be 6 months from now. Nothing. But I do think there's going to come a tipping point where Dan Bongino does resign as deputy director of the FBI. Because here's the thing. Dan Bongino, go up. What does the top of this say? This is Fox, right? I forgot. What does it say? Okay. Deputy Director Bongino vows to reveal truth in cryptic social media post. All right, let's look at Dan while we talk about this. Okay, here's the problem with this, though. Dan Bongino is the deputy director of the FBI. He's not the director of the FBI, and he's also not the attorney general of the United States, Pam Bondi. So here's the thing. Dan wants, this is what I know. I'm not saying Dan Bongino has said this to me. I want to make that abundantly clear, but this is what I know in my soul. And if you know it too, I want to see American flags in the chat right now. I know that Dan Bongino is a patriot. I know he's seen some things that don't sit right with him. And right now where he's at is a place that I wouldn't wish on anybody. He's one of the most public figures in the world in conservative media. And he has looked into the abyss, and the abyss has looked back. That's what's happened. Mm-hmm. He's looked into the abyss, and the abyss waved back at him. And here's the thing. If Kash Patel says you can't say nothing, then he can't say nothing. And even if he gets Kash Patel on board, but then AG Pam Bondi says you can't say nothing, you can't say nothing. So what do? What do you do when you know what you know? But then here's the other thing. A lot of people don't know this. When we sign our NDAs and all that other stuff to work for the administration and get our top secret, highest level security clearance you could possibly have, even when you're off the job, you can't talk about anything that you saw, witnessed, heard that was classified.
And that's why it's never, ever, ever, ever going to come out, because they elect a new president. He brings in a whole bunch of new people. Everybody signs an NDA, for security purposes and security. And that is the U.S. government's gotcha. We're going to show you all this horrible stuff, and you'll never be able to talk about it. And good luck trying to arrest anybody or prosecute anybody, because this side's protecting that side, and that side's protecting that.
Hold on. I'm going to say something that no other conservative commentator's saying. You ready? Hit that like button, hit that share button. Go ahead and clip this, Media Matters. They're going to give us some of the truth. We will eventually get a couple arrests, but you're right. The truth is there's not enough time with Trump's administration. This is why the midterms are important. This is why 2028 is important. There's not enough time. And you're right, Todd. We are not going to get it.
No.
You're right. Graham, we're not. And that's what Dan's dealing with right now. He's realizing, oh, crap, there's no way. This affects not just Dan. His wife gets drug into it. His family gets drug into it, all this other thing. It's not that simple. That's all I'm saying. He didn't realize how dark it was, just like I didn't realize how dark it was. I've told you 99.97% of everybody that works at the Pentagon hates you. They hate the president. They hate the Secretary of Defense. If we want the surgical takedown of every deep state asset, entity, infrastructure, system, all the above, it is more than just this election. If we lose the midterms, guess what? You ain't getting nothing. Nothing. And Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, they're all going to be in court for forever. That's why we got to win in 26. That's why we got to win in 28. That's why we got to win in 32. Or win in 30 and then again in 32. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a 15, 20-year thing.
Oh, yeah.
15, 20-year thing. I'm not running cover for anybody. I'm telling you the truth. It's easy to sit here and rile you up and say, we deserve to know everything. But then also not tell you the other side.
Vince
You
is
want
on
everything? If you want everything, you got to do it the right way.